All right, today is Monday, September 14th, 2020. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. So let's go into our 119 status. I think we're mainly just waiting on the snapshot release. Xing, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, so there's a PR updated to V3. If you have a time to review that, we can get that one merged.
Okay,
and also
sounds good.
the change log PR updated, basically assuming the V3 one will get in. So, and then one thing pending that the API extension one is still pending because the PR author pinned me because I was going to do it, and then he pinned me saying that he's back. So he said he's going to update it by the end of the day today. So I'm waiting for him to do that. Hopefully we can get that one in as well, and then
Okay.
we can cut the release. Yeah.
Awesome. Also, I think I noticed the image name for the webhook is.
Yeah, I changed it. So if you take a look
okay.
of the change, it's all in that change log PR. So take a look.
Okay. Awesome. Cool.
Okay. Yeah, so just see if I have addressed all your comments in the change log PR. So I added, renamed it, added a snapshot. I thought it was because somehow I thought you guys want this one to be more generic or something. So I didn't change it. Okay, so now it's changed. Yeah, so hopefully we can cut it by the end of day today, or just waiting for that one. But if it's still getting too long, maybe we just skip that one, that one PR, and go ahead, because we are waiting for snapshotter, right, to update the host path driver or something.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much. All right. In terms of the other components, CSI proxy was released, but the image building thing is broken. So I asked Jing to take a look at that. I think also the CSI proxy beta was released, but they didn't promote some of the alpha APIs because they didn't change. I believe Deep is actually going in and upgrading those APIs, unchanged APIs, to the V1 beta one. I'm not sure if they're going to cut a new minor for that, so I'll have to sync up with them. And then other than that, I think that's basically all we're waiting on for 119. Docs will have to be updated. Let me add a note for that. All right. So that should be it for 119. Any topics regarding 119? All right. So moving on, I guess the next topic is 120. Kubernetes has started the 120 release cycle. You can find the full set of dates here, but the most important ones for us is enhancements freeze, which is October 6th. That is 3 weeks away.
Are you serious?
And then code, yeah, time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
Something resembling fun.
Yeah, or time just flies in general. And yeah, so 3 weeks from now, code freeze is about 5 weeks after that, and then the actual the release date is a month after that. So
is this a normal or is this like shorter than usual? Is this like kind of normal?
This is longer than usual.
I
This is
think
a 4-month one, right?
Longer is 1.19 is longer, but 1.20
119 and 120 were both extended, so they could do 3 in 1 year instead of 4.
Yeah, but 1.20 itself is, I don't think it's that long, right?
It
seems
4 months
pretty
from
quick.
August to December.
Yeah, I feel it's shorter than usual.
Well, wait, are they releasing after Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving?
After. So the release date is December 8th.
Okay.
I think usually the the release date is a little later, like maybe a week after, like second or third week of December. So they pulled, I think the release cycle is starting earlier, but they're also pulling in the release date earlier. So it might actually only be like 1 or 2 weeks longer than a normal release cycle. But yeah,
Okay.
it still seems pretty fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that means we get extra time for 121 then.
I'm not
Because
sure.
Theoretically.
I think holidays.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah. The December is usually all like holidays type of
Yeah.
things, but
yeah, it's not that the extra time will be used well, but at least we'll have it.
Feel like it's longer. So I want. So since we have very short times, I want, because the snapshot we're trying to bring that to GA. So I want to ask. So the cap probably need to do a small update, make it of GA. Then, do we from beta to GA? Do we need to go through API review again?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
If we don't actually change any of the APIs, it should be simple.
Okay. I think the only thing is the webhook. I mean, all the other APIs remain the same. We didn't change anything since beta, right? So the validation hook would be the only one that is causing some pain, I think. So yeah, probably should get that started early. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess for 120, I think maybe what we can, once we actually finish releasing everything, we can start doing 120 scoping. So I'll go ahead and create a new 120 project, and then we can start populating all of the stuff into it, and I can move all of these to-dos and backlogs that we didn't do and move it over to 120.
Yeah. Sure.
Yep, sounds good.
And do you have a list of all the new stuff that needs to be added to 120 that's not a backlog item? Or?
You mean all the projects? Yeah. I will probably just glance through the SIG storage planning spreadsheet and just pull things off of there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have been slacking off on the data populator stuff in 119, but it is coming back in 120, and I want to work on it. So I want to make sure that gets tracked. And if we have some time at the end of this meeting, I had some specifics to go into.
Okay, sure. Okay, so that's all I had. Is there anything else anyone wants to discuss? And before we go into Ben's, yep.
I updated at least the snapshot project board just to list all the things that we need for that to go GA.
Okay.
Basically the metrics, and then mainly E2E test, I think. And the E2E test also, because they are all in tree, so those actually has a tighter timeline. I'm trying to find people because we have a few. So I have the EG test listed there that we need. Are there anything else you can think of? Because those are the things that I think we need for.
I think that's mostly all I can.
I do have a question for you on the stress test. So, Ronak has put together some stress tests, right? Can we just build on top of that, or do you have some other plan for the stress test?
So I think there's like two types of tests that I think would be useful. One is just stressing the actual controllers and the sidecars, and that's like maybe using the mock driver. The second set of tests I was thinking of is actually stressing the whole like storage system as well. So
but in our case, it's going to be stressing on the whole test driver.
Yeah. But so like we have
Okay.
the storage framework which runs against any driver, right?
Yeah.
So if we add a stress test there, then other drivers can go and run those tests against their
Sure.
own
I
systems.
think it's a good idea to add those. I'm just not sure if that might be kind of blocking all the PRs to get passed. I'm not sure about that part. I think that's the only thing I'm worried about. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think because like, you know, one of the things for going to GA is that like we can, you know, people are actually using it in production and it's working well. So I think having tests that can, you know, demonstrate like real drivers are actually functioning properly is important.
Do you know if I forgot? I know Ron submitted some PR. Do you know if his is stressing what, the storage system or the controller sidecar? Do you know?
I haven't taken a look at his PR. I need to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can talk about this offline.
But yeah, maybe it's possible there is some overlap because I think like writing a stress test that can operate against any plugin means that we should be able to run it against mock driver or host path driver.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be possible.
Okay. Oh, and also from your team side, are there anyone who has some cycles to help with this unit test? UDE test?
Possibly, yeah. So if we need help somewhere, I can see if I have some team members that can help.
Okay.
I know there were a couple issues that I opened for some small features, and I believe they're planning on working on some of those.
Okay. Snapshots related?
Yeah, there was one thing I opened, one feature request I opened was to be able to support a default snapshot class per driver instead of per cluster.
Oh, did you? I didn't see that. Okay, did you open that? Okay, I didn't.
Yeah, I opened that issue like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
That
but
does
yeah,
cool.
so yeah. So but yeah, if we need more help from places, then I can try to find some people as well.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's it for me.
Right. Any other topics before data populators?
I have a question about the migration, how it's going to proceed in 120.
We're still not very well staffed to be able to move it to GA, I think.
Yeah, same here.
I think, yeah, I think unfortunately it's still gonna stay in beta. There's at least one or two things I believe we identified that we need for feature parity. One I think is the dangling attach, which we haven't implemented for CSI. And then the second thing is the FS group during mount, which I think is something Azure File needs. So I think, oh, and then the third thing is Windows. Just a minor thing. But yeah, we definitely need more testing of migration with Windows to see if we have if there's anything that's problematic. Like I don't expect there to be any major problems with supporting CSI migration on Windows, because as far as I understand, there aren't any like Windows specific APIs in the PV or storage class objects that we would need to convert or translate. So it should just work, but we just need the testing for that. So I think those are the three major feature parity items that we need to have implement and test before we can actually move the migration feature to GA?
There is a problem with Cinder because technically it can be declared GA because Cinder volume plugin in array is deprecated for 4 releases or 3, and this is going to be 4th. And some people move it, and I stopped them because there is deprecation period, but this deprecation period is now over. So they technically could remove it.
Okay. I mean, I would maybe argue that before they actually remove it, they should turn. They would have to turn on migration by default, and then we can test. And then we can, test a period where migration is on by default for Cinder and see if there's any problems that are uncovered. And I guess, we can also ask if they need these 3 features that we're currently blocking the GA of migration on.
Oh, they don't, probably. Okay. Well, when it comes, then I may need some more ammunition because that would be pretty bad for, at least for Red Hat.
At least,
CSI driver is not really tested.
Yeah, from the migration standpoint, the overall migration feature, I don't think we are ready to move to GA. We could potentially turn on migration by default, but still keep all of the plugins off, except for potentially Cinder. But I would say we should probably have at least one release where it's on by default before moving it to GA.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
All right. Any other topics? Okay. Ben, you want to discuss?
Just a quick question. I have the same question basically for the storage capacity and generic ephemeral inline volumes. I haven't really thought what I would like to achieve in this cycle, and I'm wondering whether anyone has suggestions. What should be reasonable goals? I mean, these both features just became alpha, and there are different things that I could work on. I'm just not sure what's currently important or what the best path forward would be.
So there seems to be a lot of confusion on these 2 related ephemeral volume features, right? The existing CSI inline volume and the new one. I think there is an action item to think about how to combine them.
Yeah, but you can only combine them by removing one aspect.
Okay.
One aspect is fast local operations. That is removing CSI inline volumes and just telling people that no, you should be using the generic approach.
Do we lose anything by removing that?
Yes, there are quite a few plugins that are sort of like Kubernetes specific plugins that are not like generic storage, not general purpose storage drivers. Most of those depend on CSI inline volumes.
Okay, so they can't be using PVPC basically. They can't rely on PVPC. That's
well, they don't have a provisioner. They don't have a controller.
Okay.
So for them, it just doesn't make sense to use a different approach unless we say we don't support that approach anymore.
Yeah, I don't think we can get rid of the functionality, but I think the ask was to try to like combine the API somehow.
Yeah, the somehow is where I'm struggling. If someone has a good idea how to do that, I'm all ears. But ultimately, these are two different volumes type with different parameters, and I'm just not sure whether shuffling around the API will help in any way. That's That's my concern.
Maybe do you want to schedule a meeting and maybe we can like discuss and brainstorm ideas?
Yeah, we can try. So who should be invited to that meeting? Should he go to the SIG storage mailing list to get wider participation, or how do we do that?
I think the SIG list would be a good start, maybe to just gauge interest and who's interested in the discussion.
Okay. Well, I can summarize the API question that came up so that everyone is on the same page, and then, well, have perhaps some proposal, or at least share my thoughts on this, and then we can see whether there's some alternative proposal. Because a meeting, I think, will be too early unless people actually have thought about the problem and have some ideas that they want to propose.
Yeah, so I guess maybe like starting an email discussion maybe will be a good first step.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are just confused now. They just realize there's a new option.
It might just be about education and just explaining the difference. But yeah, we'll see. Okay.
All right, so real quick. So I've started thinking about the data populator stuff, and one of the thorny issues that's stuck in my mind is part of my design is going to be to add another CRD for external provisioner to register data populators, and it's not clear to me how what is the recommended process for adding new CRDs that CSI sidecars are going to depend on. Because we had this problem with snapshots, right? Where, initially in the alpha, the sidecar installed it automatically. We said we didn't like that.
Oh, you're wondering whether that should be part of a controller, central controller, or part of a sidecar?
Well, no. In this case, we don't need a central controller because the external provisioner sidecar will do all of the work. But if you have multiple CSI plugins, you obviously only need one copy of the CRD to be installed. And then each plugin may or may not have instances of that CR, but it's not obvious what the best way to get the CRD onto the system to begin with would be.
But if it's going to be shared, then it seems to be should just be a snapshot controller that a central controller would be a place to install this.
Right.
Well, I guess
otherwise what?
It's not necessarily you don't necessarily need a central controller to operate on the CRD. I think it's just you need a central place that installs decides which CRDs to install and
you only need a deploy the CRDs, but not the real controller logic.
Well, all the controller logic will be in external provisioner.
Oh, okay.
So the problem is if the CRD isn't there and someone installs a CSI plugin with the newest controller that depends on this, it will blow up and crash. But
is there a way?
If you install it as part of your CSI plugin, then multiple CSI plugins will collide with each other.
But I mean, you can we can add something in the external provisioner to look for the CRD, right? And if it doesn't exist, then we can have the provisioner fall back to some other behavior.
You're saying some runtime check. If CRD doesn't exist, fall back to old behavior, so you at least don't blow up, and then you can make it the deployments or the.
But I thought we don't want to. But I thought we don't want to deploy CRD by the controller, right? That's why we actually removed that from Snapshotter.
Right. Well,
so that's why I thought it's like this would be it's like a manual step, but it should be distro should be do this.
Yes, it should be something the distros do, but as we saw with snapshots, that was handled horribly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any progress has been made on having that be less horrible next time around.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. So there is someone is actually working on something, but I haven't seen any results yet.
Okay.
But well, meaning it could take a while for anything to show up, I think.
So how's this for proposal then? I will put the CRD or the YAML for the CRD in the external provisioner repo, and I will make the code do a runtime check that checks if it has been installed, and if not, it falls back to some sane behavior. But then we'll be stuck in the same boat as with the snapshotter as far as whose job it is to actually get it onto the system. We'll just be sort of left up to the user.
Yeah, should be consistent,
so I think
right?
Yeah, I think we can be consistent and just say like all CRDs that we offer are the responsibility of the distribution if they want to support these features.
Okay. Okay. So that's a reasonable starting place for me, then to work on my prototype and get the design done.
So basically the provisioner will be the one who checks whether it is registered, like whether a populator is registered or not, or something like that?
So just a brief review of where this design stands. So we have the ability now through a feature gate to enable any CR to be the data source of a PVC. And the biggest problem we have is that like, if you specify a CR that there is no data populator for, you don't get an error message and basically nothing happens. Because previously the admission controller in Kubernetes would have said, hey, I don't know what this thing is, and thrown an error. Now, the only thing that knows that it doesn't know how to populate it is the external provisioner sidecar, and at least, and its existing behavior, I think, is just to ignore things that it doesn't understand, and it doesn't generate an event, it doesn't do anything. So we'd like to be able to distinguish between like, there is a populator for this CR type and it's working on it versus there is no populator and you probably screwed up. So just want to let you know that, you know, those are the two types of responses we'd like to be able to provide, and the external provisioner is the right place to provide those responses.
Yeah,
and then we'll define
sense.
some sort of CRD that basically lets you register a populator, but it'll just be like a, you know, here's the kind that I understand, and maybe here's a little bit of metadata about me, and then that's it, and everything else will be up to the populator to actually do.
Would it be, so the main purpose of this CR is just to decide if it's, or to check if the populator has been registered or not.
Right, to see if anything has been installed to handle that kind. Versus some kind that is not intended to be the source of a PVC, but Kubernetes doesn't know that.
Would it be would it be interesting to sort of, instead of like checking that in the external provisioner, to check it in a web emission webhook, so that when someone creates the object, they get a failure right away?
Well, that's worth thinking about. I guess I'd have to think about what the existing behavior is if you specify a data source that's bogus. Do you get thrown out for the emission controller so the object never even gets created?
Yes.
Okay. Because there is a situation where like you can specify the snapshot as the source of a volume, and if that snapshot doesn't yet exist, everyone's happy. It's just that the provisioner will just be like, hey, the snapshot doesn't exist yet, I'm waiting. And then later somebody takes the snapshot and you say, oh, okay, now I can clone it, and off you go. So you need to be able to support that state where like, you know that you know how to deal with a snapshot. It's just that the specific snapshot that was asked for isn't there yet.
Yeah, and I think that's fine, right? So this is only just checking if like the populator type is installed, not necessarily the actual object.
Yeah. So do we have a webhook that validates PVCs yet? How is that?
Today, no.
Okay.
But we did just introduce a webhook for snapshots.
So this one be in tree, I wonder, since the data, any data, I don't know, but if you are relying on CRD, then you cannot, yeah.
No, it couldn't be in tree because it would be an add-on conceptually.
Okay.
But this might be the kind of add-on that you would have centralized, a la the snapshot controller, where you'd only want to install the whole thing one time. But my vision had been that every external provisioner sidecar would be required to generate the errors for the types of volumes that provisioner is responsible for. And that would be that wouldn't be a less good model than just having a webhook that does all of them.
So you can take a look of the webhook that just got added in the snapshot repo.
Okay, it's merged and it's in the snapshot.
It's already
repo?
merged. Yeah, you can take a look of the README. There's
okay
README as well.
Real quick, what is the install process for it? Does it go along with like the central controller?
Yeah.
Well, supposedly, okay. Right? That's but yeah.
Okay, and
there was a sample. There was a sample there that you can try out.
What version of Kubernetes is that intended for?
1.19. This is okay. But the okay, maybe you can try the RC build. So you probably need to build your own images because it's not we have not officially cut it yet. If you want to try right away.
But I mean, if I build from master, will it work against Kubernetes 1.18 or 1.17 as well?
Yeah. The valid emission webhook is available pretty early. I think even earlier than 1.17.
Well, snapshots weren't beta until 1.17, so
yeah,
wouldn't want to go back earlier than that. But yeah, if we could get it to work with 1.17 and later, that would be interesting. And yeah, I would love to copy that model because it does feel better than sticking it into the sidecars. And because there has to be a centralized install step anyways, asking them to also install the webhook is not much more work.
So that means we probably need a separate repo for this, right? Well, otherwise, well, if it's not in provisional, then what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason we couldn't still use the external provisioner repo for this, but you're right.
We can probably figure out that later. Yeah.
Yeah, it could go in another repo. I don't know if we want to have proliferation of Git repos just because of the maintenance headache that causes. And it's pretty obvious how this ties into external provisioner, but yeah, you could argue it the other way.
Yeah, I guess I don't see any other sidecar using these CRDs.
No, I don't either.
Yeah. If we want to keep our number of repos low, then I think external provisioner is the best place to put it. Otherwise, like, it might be useful. It might, in terms of organization, it might be interesting to like have separate repos for things that are supposed to be central versus things that are supposed to be per plugin.
But we already have the snapshot of repo doing both things and producing 2 artifacts out of 1 repo, right?
Oh, 3 now.
Yeah.
3, yeah. So we already have a counterexample. But we can of course break that apart if we wanted.
I guess there's a benefit for those 3 together. It's just testing wise, you just test them together. But yeah,
that's true. Maybe one day we'll revisit this mono repo idea, but
I personally like fewer repos, but
yeah, I like everything to be together, just all the Kubernetes.
Okay, that was the main thing I wanted to get sorted out before I move on with my prototype. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Well, I'm very interested in that.
All right. Any other topics? Then we'll end for today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.